All right, boys. Prem is back this week, which means we are back again after a little week or so off of the FA Cup going. Um, have to start with what just happened on Sky Sports before that Celtic game. They were getting absolutely rinsed by the presenters. Scotties, you must have had a smirk on your face about the same as Chris Boyd did in that.
Aye.
Yeah.
You just can't. You honestly can't believe what you're watching. Like you just can't comprehend that actually happened and what's going on here.
Celtic have they've had a nightmare. They've just
Who was ripping them?
Andy Walker, former player and
yeah.
Celtic daft pundit, he was tearing them apart, going straight for the board, calling them out, saying it's like absolutely abysmal from the top of the club to the bottom of the club, right the way through. They just went for it.
I was just saying that to my dad there. I was like, see, from like a business point of view, like whoever like their PR guy is, or like the chairman director of that, like what are they thinking letting them do that?
They had the head sporting director was on, and he said, we don't see ourselves as a football team, staff and players. We're a business, we're employers, and we've got employees, and we're looking after our employees right now, and we don't want to play the game because they're looking after employees. It's not a football club, it's a business as well, isn't it?
It's a brand, right? It's a global big brand. It's a really poor decision. Like I remember when we went on a walk and we said, like, fair enough, understanding from maybe the manager's point of view of getting the players out of Scotland and getting away from getting beat by Rangers, but with how bad everything is with COVID and that, it was a horrific decision. They've not had a good last 6 months, have they?
Yeah, I mean, at the time they went, it wasn't as bad as what it seems now. But surely they can not see in the future, but surely they can, taking that many people away abroad at this time of the world, like surely they could have seen this coming.
Imagine going to Dubai at this time, eh?
I know.
Terrible decision, eh?
We'll go away from that because enough has been said about it as a poor decision. But we haven't been on Scotty since the Old Firm game. Rangers obviously got the win and then followed up that with a solid win against Aberdeen. That was yesterday, right? Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah. So Rangers in a really good spot. What quickly, Scotty? What do you think about the Old Firm game? How it went?
It pretty much summed up for Celtic's whole year, wasn't it? Absolutely the best team by an absolute mile first half. Battered us, had all the ball, all the opportunities, couldn't do anything with it. All of a sudden, one of their best centre-backs gets injured the game before, gets replaced by a guy who then makes the challenge for the sending off to go and then go 1-0 down. It was just so typical of Celtic season. They were the better team by an absolute mile, way more up for it, way hungrier. But it's a results business, boys. And you can get the ball in the back of the net, and then the longer that game went on, the more you knew Rangers were getting back into it. And
yeah, Alan McGregor's was incredible in that game. That save he made off of Lee Griffiths was...
Yeah, that was a world-class shot.
Keepers win your leagues. They win. Keep a really good keeper in form wins you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even a lot of folks saying that. I was watching Open Goal earlier, and all those boys were saying it. I remember, obviously, I wasn't here. I didn't get to see it when I was in America, but I think it was in the Cup final last year. You battered them, and Fraser Forster was incredible. And that was kind of the
Forster had one of the best games you'll ever see a goalkeeper have.
Yeah.
So what McGregor is, he can go 70, 80 minutes without needing him, and then that one moment you need him, he just pulls off a world-class save. Yeah. It's just like, wow.
Well, like you say, it summed up both team seasons, right? Celtic just all on top, things not going for them, and Rangers just digging in and getting the victory.
It just seems no matter how bad Rangers play, they still just win. You don't even know how sometimes, right? But in Celtic, no matter how good they play, just can't get 3 points.
Nah. When things are going good, they go good, and when things are going bad, they go bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know you're not going to say it, Scotty, but I was in the similar situation that you are right now last season with Liverpool, but it's not over till it's over, till the hands are on the trophy, but it's kind of over. Obviously, you're not going to say anything about it. Matthew, speaking about Liverpool, it's been we haven't talked about them the last few weeks, and not because they haven't been doing well. I just felt like there's always kind of been bigger talking points of what we want to do, but it's been a bit of a strange last 3-4 weeks for Liverpool, just not quite been able to grind out wins, especially away from home.
I think, it's a weird one. Like, obviously the away form is not good at all, but See, like with the whole, like we got injuries in that, missing Van Dijk, missing Gomez and that. I expected us to like concede goals in that, and I'd be like, all right, sound, you can't understand it. But it's just the fact we've gone blunt going forward, which is like a bit of a concern. Like I was thinking in my head, like, all right, sweet, we'll beat teams like 6-5 in that, like because we're normally quite good at that. Just like the lack of creativity going forward. I don't know if you remember, this happened. I don't know when it was. This happened a year or two ago. It was right after when we sold Coutinho, and everyone's like, "Oh, you shouldn't have sold Coutinho." Your midfield three of Henderson, Ronaldo. I think it was like Milner at the time. Like zero creativity, nothing going forward. See, I think it's kind of happened again. We seem to hit this point where we've got zero creativity or ideas going forward. The front three aren't firing. And to be honest, I really can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, it's spot on that what you've just said there, and that kind of is the main thing that the main topic we'll discuss in this is, kind of trusting the process. And sometimes with a team, it's not going to be great all the time. It's not possible. I mean, certainly in Liverpool's perspective, the last 2 years, have barely lost the game, have barely dropped any points, and at some point you're going to come back down to earth. Man City came back down to earth and a bit of normality last season, and Liverpool with the injuries have kind of come back down to earth as well. And it's just part of football. It's not always going to be pretty, and it's not always going to be amazing. Man City as well. Last few games, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but they look like they've started to pick up a little bit form and look a bit more like the team that we've seen Scotty in the last kind of year or two.
Yeah, Man City massively. Yeah, they had that game the other week where they had a fresh set of legs, and they went back to the same speed and the same quality they had that you think City are for the last few years.
Knocking it about better, like you watch them now, and you're like, right, it's a pep team because you watch them and then passing teams to death in a moment. But with their swagger though, they never had that before. Yeah. They're also defending like pretty decent at the moment. Yeah. And they've hit like a rhythm and a groove. Like they've had kind of their bad patch. They've hit a point now where you watch them and you're like, holy shit, like they've found the rhythm here.
Yeah, you're worried City are going to score 4 or 5 goals every game again.
Yeah, I think they'll start. I think they're going to start doing that. I reckon we'll see them smash the next few weeks. I could be massively wrong, but I got a weird feeling.
Everyone will be getting. Sure, everyone's got 3 City players for their fantasy team this week, eh? Or at least 2.
You don't know which ones?
I don't know which ones. I know, man. I know you don't know what Pep is going to rotate.
I've got 4 on my team.
Phil,
free hit. You could just put any player you want in there.
Just go for it, man. Everyone.
Whole City team.
One player that's, before we kind of get into the main thing, one player that's really stood out over the last few weeks in the league has definitely been Phil Foden. He's obviously a great talent. It's been obvious. It's been obvious for the last 12 to 18 months. And, even Mika Richards said it on Sky Sports. It's just interesting the way that Pep kind of does things with all the players he have, which we've talked about. You kind of have to keep a lot of people happy. He just doesn't, even when he plays well, he doesn't seem to get a big run of games in a row to keep going on improving it, which you need to get to the next level. He's such a young kid. He needs to play more. But I think that's him played maybe 3 games in a row now, and I fully expect him to play against Brighton this week as well. And I mean, if he does that, he looks like some player. Like,
you think he goes Sterling, Foden, De Bruyne again?
Sterling's got a knock, is he not? I think Sterling's fully fit.
Who knows? Jesus has obviously been back training again. He was on the bench in the last game, but it worked all right with De Bruyne as that false 9, which is a great little bit of Pep doing his little thing, little bit of magic again tactically, and it's paid off. De Bruyne looked fantastic there. I never would have really thought of playing him there because he's so good with his vision of playing balls in behind, but it makes complete sense with how he is as a football player. He's so intelligent. Roy Keane and all those, and Souness and that were just jizzing over him on Sky Sports that night. When they played, who was it that they played, Matthew, that game? We were watching it. It was Chelsea. It was a Chelsea game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was absolutely phenomenal in the false 9 position. But, yeah, see, it looked like they picked up a little bit of form, and you can see it in their playing and their presence, that they look like they've got a little bit back. Right, so I've been doing a lot of thinking over the last 10 days about, watching a lot of Sky Sports news and checking social media a little bit, and I put a bunch of notes down here, a bunch of bullet points I didn't send to you guys because I kind of wanted to I guess go off on a little bit, maybe not a rant's the right word, but just something that I was kind of getting a bit a bit annoyed by seeing on Sky Sports News and everything. And that's how I kind of came up with the idea of the topic to be trust the process, because what we're seeing, and you guys can chime in please whenever you want. In my opinion, I think especially we've talked about the effects of social media on the very first chat we had on here, but especially with that, I think we're seeing a lot of fans feeling like, certainly in the top clubs, feeling like they deserve, instant success. And I think people these days feel like they deserve instant success because of, social media has a big part to play in that. But I just see a lot of flip-flopping these days that, again, I don't remember seeing growing up, maybe because social media wasn't around and maybe because I wasn't aware of it. But it seems like 2-3 games, you see all these fans, being like, Ollie's amazing, or Lampard's amazing, or the other way, Arteta's terrible, Arsenal in a crisis. And then a game or two later, it flips the other way. And I get the media are going to do that. That's their job. They have to get off of headlines, and other people are going to do things for clickbait. So, that's always been the case of the media. But I think my concern, and the thing that I was getting a bit frustrated about, was how quickly fans these days, are chopping and changing things like that. And coming at it from a perspective of being a Liverpool fan, who I had to wait all my life until last season to see us actually win a league title. Yes, we've won some trophies and a couple of Champions Leagues, but a league title, to have gone through a lot of managers and to gone through a fair bit of pain in the league. I think, myself and Matthew and Greg's not on tonight, but are in a pretty decent situation perspective-wise to understand that, things do take time and you go through good times and bad times. And I think there's certain clubs that have been a bit spoiled by that. Obviously Manchester United, had that 26 years under Fergie where they were always up there doing something, but, they've been brought back down to earth in the last few years. And I just think there's a big thing about feeling like you deserve instant success, and it's just not possible. It takes time. So I kind of wanted to take Liverpool in terms of Jurgen Klopp, not in terms of Liverpool, but in terms of Jurgen Klopp and what Liverpool have done over the last 5 years, because Frank Lampard has said it in his interviews. Mikel Arteta said it in his interviews. They keep referring to, I need time, and they do keep saying, I don't know if you guys have noticed, look at what Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp did. It took him 5 years to do this. So I'm not just saying this because I'm a Liverpool fan, but I've noticed those managers say that. And I think even Solskjaer said it too. So I kind of wanted to look at, use Liverpool as kind of that blueprint of the last 5 years of taking time and trust in the process. Because I remember when Jurgen Klopp came in the first couple of years, and rightly so, a lot of people were saying to me, I don't get it. He's a bottle job. He can't get over the line. And sometimes you need a little bit of luck. And I think when we won the Champions League, that's what kind of pushed us there. But, things take time. You need to trust the process, and you need to accept that you're going to have ups and downs. So the first team I kind of wanted to talk about was Chelsea and Frank Lampard, because 3 weeks ago, they were up there challenging, according to everyone else and fans, they were challenging for the league title. They were up there. And I feel like the narrative slipped, and I've seen some Chelsea fans on some other podcasts I listen to and watch, or Sky Sports or whatever it may be, almost saying like, yeah, I think Lampard's going to get sacked. Like, I think he might go. And it's like, that was 3 weeks ago. You were like buzzing that you have Frank Lampard, a Chelsea man, in charge. And now all of a sudden you're discussing him being sacked. It's just such a quick turnaround. So overall, Matthew, I'll start with you. Chelsea in the last 5 years, 5 years ago, they finished 10th in the league. They then went on to win the league title the season after. They then finished 4th, then 3rd, 5th, then 3rd, then 4th. So overall, from the outside looking in, what do you think is the realistic expectations of Chelsea this season and Frank Lampard now and over the next couple of years?
The only thing I'd say was different about Lampard is he's being given money to spend and players to buy.
Yeah.
Whereas if you try to look at someone like Arteta, he's not really had that yet, has he?
No.
Solskjaer, would you say has or not?
Man United spent a fair bit of money, yeah.
I more mean like Solskjaer and wanting to get his players and do it his way and give him time.
No, he's definitely not spent. He's not spent a lot, I would say, yeah.
So I think Lampard's under a lot of pressure simply because as soon as he loses a few games, everyone's like, "Well, you spent like 200 mil."
Yeah.
and you've just gone and like lost X, Y, and Z. So I think with Lampard's situation, I kind of understand, but I like see the whole thing with like what you're talking about with giving someone time of that. I think it's like the clubs have got to be really careful with who they decide to give time to.
Yes.
And I think if you're going to do it, you have to be really careful with it. But I think where it flips, and this is what I think it connects to what you're saying, is like I think the fans want someone in and they want someone to have time, but I don't. But they have to be patient with it. I think when Lampard loses a few games, I think the reason like I'm not too sure is they just want they want someone else in that will be given time, but is kind of proven that they'll be able to do a good job, if you know what I mean.
Short-term success.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It's a tough one. I understand what you're saying. I think you got to look at like the club. Like you got to look at Chelsea as well. Chelsea are known for just manager, trophy, trophy, trophy.
Yeah, Chelsea are a classic club for instant success, aren't they? They
Yes.
get a new
It's
manager,
like-
give them 200 million to spend, and they expect to win the league that very next season. Like that's Chelsea.
Exactly.
They were the first team to do that, weren't they?
But
Get a billionaire
but
owner.
Chelsea are. But I think maybe the troublesome thing with that is you've got like City and Liverpool at the moment who are extremely strong, extremely strong, by the way. And I don't know. I just think that's kind of seems like Chelsea's DNA is the manager. Then the flip side of it is Arsenal, where you're thinking surely they've brought Arteta in to give him time. Like they must have.
You don't get Arteta in and expect instant results. If you look at, he's not been a manager. Like it's his
But
first.
do
You
you
can't
like?
expect instant
Big,
results.
if you think about it, yeah, what Soy just said, it made me think of something. It's quite a big job for two people that aren't proven managers. It really is.
Same with all at United.
Like if Abramovich at Chelsea was desperate for success instantly, he could have gone to someone else. There's got to be a better candidate than Frank Lampard, surely. Somebody who's won.
But-
On paper, I'm sure there's loads.
On paper, yeah, 100% on paper. He isn't going on CVs and.
So this is kind of my point. Don't you think you hire Frank Lampard with the understanding that with everything you've just said, as a fan base, like we can take the clubs into account, of course. Let's do that for sure. And I agree with everything you're saying about Chelsea. But when Frank Lampard came in, did Chelsea fans really expect Frank Lampard to do what Ancelotti did there and Mourinho did there, like right off the bat? Do you know what I mean? Based off everything you've been saying, I think when you hired Frank Lampard, surely your thought process as a fan has to be, okay, this is maybe us going in a different direction, and we have to accept to be patient with it and let Lampard grow as a manager. And I agree, though, there could come a point where with anyone at any club, Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool, whoever, where it's clearly not working, you need to make a change. But you don't think, Scotty, that
I think that's
Lampard
surprising bringing in Lampard and then giving him all that money. Whereas you look at what was Lampard's last job as Derby.
Yeah.
Great at bringing through young lads, turn them into a good team, working together with a young group of players with not many egos. But then you give them all that money to go and spend on superstars, and that's not what Lampard's used to dealing with, and especially in his last job.
Yeah, and
he's good at bringing through an academy. And
to kind of my point about trusting the process and going along for a little bit of a long-term thing. I'm not saying that Chelsea fans should have to wait 5-6 years to win trophies. Not at all. He's at big club. He's got big expectations. He knows that as a person, what it's like to be at Chelsea. He understands it. But do you not think that just that appointment is how can you expect Frank Lampard just to come in, be given money, and all of a sudden Chelsea to be, challenged at the top of the Premier League in what technically year one, because last season you didn't have a chance to spend any money, right? I just don't think as a fan base, when you really break it down, is that acceptable to want that? I don't know.
I think these guys I think what their expectations and standards are they constantly are being under pressure just to prove to the fans and show the fans they're taking tiny steps forward all the time. Like they're slowly but surely moving forward. And I think if they can do that, then they can try to keep fans happy. But it's so fucking difficult.
How do you prove to the fans then that you are moving forward and that you are getting better?
Well,
because surely the results determine if they are or not. Also, you could be. Yeah.
I think like performances as well. But like if you look, but like Arsenal's situation's a little bit different to Chelsea's now. Like Arsenal dropped way below par, like
Yeah.
way below par.
Matthew, Arsenal, sorry, in the last 5 years, right? You say that. We'll go into more detail about them, but I'm just saying this so you can carry your point on. You say Arsenal finished below par. In the last 5 years, 5 years ago, they finished second. Since then, they came fifth, sixth, fifth, eighth. So are they not performing to where they have been for the last 4 years?
Yeah, I think it's
You know
a
what I
good
mean?
point. I think it's really. I think so many fans live in the past as well.
Yeah,
Like so
yeah.
many fans. Like that's why Solskjaer's under such a hard job because I genuinely feel like Man United fans still don't understand the fact that their manager is not Sir Alex Ferguson,
Yeah.
and like he is like you know what I mean. Like it's so hard, and I get it though. I'm sure we'll be the same with Liverpool, by the way. Like if like
Yeah.
that's
You
just
always
our
compare it to that.
that's just what we think that's our expectations. So it's difficult.
And it's also hard when you got ex-players like Gary Neville and on Sky Sports criticising them every week.
Yeah.
Saying this is what Man United is. At the moment, it's not, though, is it? You used to be that.
You have to accept that the club, your club has changed, for better, for worse. What to go off of what you guys said about like how do you evaluate the success and how you give someone time? In my opinion, right? This is just from my personal experience again, is that I could see, and Matthew, you can agree or disagree with me. I could see very early on when Jurgen Klopp took over Liverpool what he was clearly trying to do with the club. Now, whether that brought success in 3 to 5 years or not, you never know. Fortunately, as a Liverpool fan, it did, right? But I could clearly see what he was trying to do, and I could see the signings he was trying to make, and it made sense. From watching his press conferences and how his team was trying to play and the signings he was making, it made sense. And you have to get a bit of luck. Who knew Mohamed Salah and Sadio Mane for 30 million each were going to be how good they've been? You know what I mean? You don't. Andy Robertson for 8 million, you don't. There comes coaching and luck, and a lot of things have to play in that part. But as a fan, I could see and I accepted I'm along for this journey and I'm buying into it because I can see what you're trying to do. And I'll ride with that until the time isn't there anymore, right? Until you can clearly see it's not working, it needs a change.
But to stop you there, the question is though, is that last bit you just seen, when is that?
What do you mean the last bit I just seen?
The last bit you just said of you're along for the ride until it's not working. Define it's not working, because that's where this whole issue comes from. Is Arteta this season, let's just say it wasn't working, right? At what point do you sack him? What point do you keep him?
But you say that, right? And don't get me wrong, they were very far down the table. But what I just read out from where they finished, 5th, 6th, 5th, 8th. Well, I'm expecting, and with their squad, and also from the outside looking in, Mikel Arteta having his first job, I'm honestly not expecting Arsenal to finish much higher than 8th.
No, but it's much more than that. It's performances as well. It's much more than just looking at a table and seeing where they are. There's 100% the fans watching them every single day, and you can see if the players aren't playing for the shirt. You can see if that's not working, if that's not working.
Yeah, and they also had... There you go.
It is much more than looking at a table. The performances for 90 minutes, 100% have to come into it.
Yeah, I think I don't disagree with that at all. And I'm just using I'm just trying to use the league standings as a a way of looking at it from a broader perspective, because we're not fans of those clubs. But yeah, you're bang on performances, and that kind of leads me into my big point about Chelsea. Is my only concern for Frank Lampard, who I have backed, and I like the way he talks. I like his personality. I think he has a little something as a manager. But my only concern is what I just said about Liverpool with Klopp, is I don't see what Lampard is doing to create his identity on that Chelsea team. And that's where my concern for him is, and where my concern would be as a fan. So to answer your question, Matthew, I think that's the answer. When you start to not see the identity that you're trying to create and it's not working, I think that's where you start to have a bit of an issue.
Here, give me 2 seconds, guys. I need to jump on a work call about 2 minutes.
No worries. Go ahead, mate. Go ahead. But yeah, Scotty, that would be my main concern.
Yeah, Which goes down into the performances. If you watch, but that, I think that comes into being a true fan. And if you watch every single game,
yes,
you'll see, right, okay, this is what Lampard's trying to do. But if we brought up, if you remember when we were talking about Man United and McTominay on Twitter,
yeah,
one of your mates hadn't even watched the game, but he said, "Oh, he texted saying McTominay's shite." Like,
yeah,
you didn't even watch the game,
yes.
so you can't. But you'll see, oh, we got beat. Man United got beat 2-0 today. You go, oh, United are terrible. Solskjaer out. But they might have played unbelievable, or tried to play football, or tried to change the system, or do something different, and got beat 2-0. But if they're trying a different thing, and you can see where they're going, then that's okay. But like what Matthew said, though, that week was that Arsenal got beat got beat twice and drew once in a week, and they were terrible. And that's when the alarm bells are ringing. But
and then and you know, now he's.
By the way, 3 weeks later, just 3 weeks later, trust the process. Arsenal it was only West Brom, but they were unbelievable.
Yeah,
popped it about. They looked brilliant again.
Yeah. No, I agree. Mate. I agree. So, and I'll ask Matthew when he comes back on. We'll finish off with Chelsea, and we'll move on to Arsenal next. What do you, for you, looking from the outside in, Scotty? Like, what do you think is a real expectation for Chelsea fans to have on Frank Lampard and how they do in the next 12 months, for example, or 2 years?
Yeah. I mean, it's also a hard one. We're not passionate fans. We don't support that team. It's hard to say, but realistically, if I was a Chelsea fan and you're getting a young, inexperienced manager like Lampard, yeah, he's a big name. He's a great player, but he's only in his third year as a manager, maybe fourth. Still,
fourth,
compared to Ferguson or Klopp, but it's still a young manager.
Yes.
There's only so much you can expect. But then the pressure gets hyped on. As we say, Chelsea's already that club that spends money and they expect success straight away.
Of course.
That's not happening. But if you give somebody that much money, surely there's got to be a little bit more expectation.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Quicker, as you say, but
I was quite surprised in the summer when he spent that much money because I thought you're piling a lot more pressure on yourself, and Lampard, I think, is the type of character that can 100% take it.
Yeah.
But I thought that was quite interesting to do, quite like you just said, quite early on. Do you know what I mean?
Is there anyone in the world that wouldn't have signed Timo Werner this year?
No.
Like, any manager would bet your head off to take him. Is it Lampard's fault that he's been absolutely terrible this season? Or maybe, right? I mean, this is where it is so difficult to say, right? And you can only say it as the fan of the club. Yeah.
If you, and my point is, as a fan, just like kind of check yourself a little bit, and if you're like really deeply passionate, make sure you're genuinely watching the game, right? You're into it. Don't be going on social media, and that's part of life now, but don't be going on social media and reading things and taking other people's opinions. Take your own opinion of your club, because that does create a little something around the fan base when you do that right now the fans aren't in the stadium, but you know, when they are, if you're together and there's more of you that are doing things like that, then it helps the team. You know what I mean? I don't want to bring Rangers into this, but no, go ahead.
This is talking about the process and trusting it and watching the game. So that cup final last year, the League Cup final, Rangers were unbelievable. Like the best I've seen them play in years for 90 minutes. Like you could see exactly what Gerrard was trying to do. He had the right players doing what he wanted, and they get beat 1-0. If you don't watch that game, you go, oh, fucking hell, Gerrard had a shocker. He got beat 1-0. It's another cup final, another loss to Celtic. But I knew watching that game in 6 months, a year's time, Rangers would be all right.
Yeah.
Just the way they played, you could see what was happening, and you take so much belief from that defeat. If you didn't watch that game and just went purely on the results, you go, oh, bloody hell, we've lost another cup final. Gerrard's a loser. But
you're spot on, mate. And again to say about the team I support, Liverpool, when we got beaten that Champions League final to Real Madrid, it felt like it was the start of something, not the end of something. Yeah, like you 100%. could it would have been such a fun season in Europe, and you could really see things coming together, and everyone was like, oh, he's got beaten in the Champions League final, and it was shite, don't get me wrong. You don't want to lose it, but it didn't feel to me as a fan that it felt like we're going to be back there again in a year or two. And sounds like you felt similar about Rangers.
It takes that long, and it takes a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to losing a cup final could easily be get the manager out or the fans turn on the back or whatever. But
I used to have this rule with my teams I used to coach, and it was a 24-hour rule for parents that I don't want you to come to me with the problem or something you felt about the game until 24 hours after, because 9 out of 10 times you're going to look back and go, that was an emotional thought and decision. I disagree with it, and I always said to them, if you still feel that way 24 hours later, then it's a real issue. We need to speak about it. But I think I do that as like Liverpool the other night when they got beat by Southampton. I was fuming and I was saying things about Trent, and you're in the emotion, you're in the moment. It happens as a fan, you're passionate. But 24 hours later, you kind of look back and you go, you think of the game, you think the moments about whatever it is, and you just have to kind of put that to the side. But now just make sure as a fan that you're watching it and you're not taking other people's opinions on social media. Yeah. Arsenal, we brought them up a lot because, you know, I think that they're, like I said at the start, they've gone from crisis to Arteta's getting it right within a week. You know what I mean? Which is football, and definitely modern day football. What do you think, again, Scotty? Similar situation, don't have as much money as Chelsea. I mean, what do you think about Arsenal as a whole, and where should, you know, people that support them or watch their games, where do you think they feel that they should maybe be for the next year or two?
If you asked me at the start of the season, you wouldn't have great expectations, really. If you looked truthfully at the squad, also there's some amazing players in Aubameyang, but that whole, as a squad, as a 15, 17 players, it wasn't good enough to even come close to competing. Never mind get a top 4, I don't think.
No.
Top 10, really. And then you bring into, Arteta comes with a bit of expectation because he's been working under Guardiola for 3 years.
Yeah.
But that means it's so different becoming from an assistant to then taking over the reins and having all the pressure as a manager.
Yeah.
If I was an Arsenal fan, truthfully, maybe, as you say, look at their previous results from 5 years. Anything better than 8th was probably a bonus.
Yeah, I think
potentially scraping Europe, maybe.
Top six. Top 6 would be a really good achievement for them. I personally think.
Yeah. Without spending any money on superstars, really.
Yeah, without spending any money, I think that would be a good place for them to start. And like what Matthew said earlier about, you know, you use Man United as the example. I think Arsenal have got to accept that they're not the Arsenal that they were under Arsene Wenger, challenging for titles.
The key to that is at the moment, though. At the moment,
of course.
And that's where you have to go self-reflect and go, right, at the moment, this is where we are.
Yeah.
But we are still Arsenal. We're still a massive club.
Of course.
We will get there eventually, but you don't just sign 2 players in the transfer window and then become the Arsenal of old.
No, and I think that, unfortunately, the way that modern football is, money plays a big part and what you spend. And if you want the top players, you've got to, you know, be spending that, you know, for a world-class player these days, you're talking 80 million, probably, right? So, and Arsenal just don't look like they're going to do that as a club. So they're going to have to go about it a different path. But again, you the team that won the Premier League last year in Liverpool keep coming back to it. But, you know, they of course, we bought Van Dijk for 75 and we bought Alisson. But apart from that, we bought Salah for 30, Mane for 35, Robertson for 8. You know, you've got to do a bit smart business when you're in that position. I mean, what you just said about the Arsenal squad, I remember looking back now, every season started, I always believed, I was like Liverpool have got a chance to win the league. And I watched Premier League years and stuff, and we've got a midfield of Jay Spearing and Lucas Leiva, great servant to the club, by the way. But, you know,
you're never getting that high expectations, are you?
But in the moment, and how you feel as a fan, and obviously Liverpool are a big club, you feel like you should be up there challenging for it. But when you really realistically look back, you're like, there was no chance we were getting anything close to that. You know what I mean? And we ended up finishing 6th, 7th, and 8th because the table doesn't lie at the end of the season. That's how good you are. That's how good your squad is. So,
on a point on that, this is totally random, but when Yogi Hughes took over at Wraith Rovers, remember that a couple of years ago, 2017, and when he first went in, he said after a week there, I think the previous manager had left him with 8 left-footed players in the squad.
Wow,
like
it's random.
What to do? But 8 left. Like, how is it ever got to this stage? And he takes, realistically, if that a good job's scraping, not getting relegated.
Yes, yeah.
For him to have done that job properly, it would take years to get those players out, get the players in, and then coach them to how he wants. That's like a 3-4 year stage.
Exactly. You can't expect it to be done so quickly, especially going into a club that, you know, are not going to spend any money at all, right?
You can imagine if Guardiola took over a team like that. He's not going to get them playing tiki-taka football, is he? He's going to be...
No, he's not, man. Shout out to Yogi Hughes, by the way.
Yeah.
Never met him, but I know you know him. His interview, that one that you sent the other day was absolutely brilliant, and you can see in the upturn in results that he's lifted the mood of the camp up and got the team back going again. That's class. And again, he's been brought in to do one thing is to have Ross County survive the season. But if you want him in charge for a while, like you just said, you need to give him time.
But another thing that's wrong with football, he was given a contract to the end of the season. Basically, here's the pressure: if you don't get us, if you get us relegated, you're out.
Exactly. You're out.
How's that for a long-term picture?
Oh man, I know.
Speaking
about lifting the mood and everything, we've said this a few times on here about Arsenal and Arteta. You can even see right now with the transfer window open, like he's clearly trying to get rid of a lot of players, and he's trying to completely shift the culture of the club to fit in his image, but also Arsenal's image, but in a different way, right? As other managers have done. And out of all these teams I've got down here, Chelsea, United, Spurs, Arsenal, I think Arsenal, need to understand that I think that's the club that needs the most work. I think there needs a lot change there, right the way through that club, because you've seen it now that he's playing the young kids. They've come in and they've been way more into it than some of the big time pros, and that's not good when your big time pros are not looking as enthusiastic as your young kids are. They're looking comfortable. So I think Arsenal's the toughest job right now out of the quote unquote top clubs in the Premier League. 100%.
Yeah, it'll take him at least a couple of transfer windows as well.
Easy.
Get rid of who he doesn't want in there, get a couple of bodies in, and then get them playing under his style. You've seen it already. We slated him on that podcast, but that week, if anyone watched that, they were so bad. They were lost. But then he makes a few changes to the squad, gets a few young lads in, they play how he wants to, and all of a sudden, 1 or 2 goals go in, and all of a sudden, heads go up. And I think a big thing in anything in life, whatever you're doing too, but he had to just take a risk and change it and do something like play the young kids, and because it wasn't working with what he was doing before. And again, I think that's a sign of a good manager, of recognizing the situation and being like, I have to take a gamble here and do something because this isn't working. And right now it's paying off for him, right? The best thing I liked about Arteta was after a couple of those defeats, he took that all on him. He said, look, that was totally me. I got it totally wrong. It wasn't the players. That's on me. And it's interesting that Lampard has done the opposite in a couple of years. He's blamed his players, which can work. You know what I mean? Which can work, but I don't like that. That's a very Jose Mourinho trait thing to do. Cold shoulder and looking at Timo Werner doesn't seem like the type of guy that's going to take that well. Like so I'm playing terrible and you're ripping me. It was an interesting one from Lampard, but I spot on with what you said. He's not shied away from it, Arteta. In the last few weeks, he's stood up to it, and that's the process, isn't he? It is, absolutely, mate. I tell you what, one signing that they have made that has been absolutely fantastic is Kieran Tierney. I mean, how good was that goal last week? The goal, the way he plays. He just strikes me as the type of guy that doesn't matter where he's at, who he's playing for, how good or how bad it is. He's going to be the same on the pitch every single week. And they need to not necessarily build a team around him, but he's a character that you want to get more of those guys in your team, right? I mean, that sounds like an obvious thing to say, but it's... how good is it seeing a Scottish guy do that in the Premier League? I know, man. I can't believe we have 2 world-class players and they're both left backs. So Scottish, isn't it? So Scottish, but I mean, he's been class. I remember watching the warm-up for the I think it was the Sheffield United game where it was snowing and he was in shorts and t-shirt and like it was just like so Scottish. It's it's a Scottish trait that from players to regardless of what's going on, be hard workers. You know what I mean? Knuckle down, get on with it, and that's the type of guy Arteta will love as well. Yeah, you need that. That's the type of guys you need in your team to win. Yeah, not harping on about him, but Yogi said when Rangers first signed Scott Arfield, he coached him at Falkirk, and he said he is the number 1 player you want in your team. Regardless of what you ask him to do, he will turn up, give 100%, and do whatever requires of that team. Yeah, he said he couldn't be any happier for Arfield signed for Rangers. And it's funny, obviously, massively to a different level. But speaking on that. That was one thing I did when I was coaching the kids too. Was I had some teams where some kids were not technically very good, and to be honest with you, probably struggled on the ball when they were in the game. But see, every time the game went on, I would play them the whole time because he's back. I would play them the whole time because
I know what I'm going to get from them. Even as an 8, 9, 10-year-old kid, I know for a fact he's going to run around the pitch for the whole game. He might not be good enough on the ball at this level, but you need that in your team. You need someone to rely on. Matthew, we were just talking about Arsenal and Arteta and how he's trying to shift the culture of the club, and we were just talking about how good Tierney's been in terms of his attitude. The last few weeks, he's been fantastic, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's only been good for a few weeks, eh? But
yeah, but I mean,
well, sorry, me and Scotty were just saying, like, in terms of how he's always working on the pitch, though. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe he's not had great performances, but he doesn't shy away.
Do you want to know why, though? It's because he's playing in a back four as a left back. That's what Tierney is, man. Like, this whole back three playing as a wing back, on a back three playing as a left side centre half. Those left back, left wing back, left side centre back, like, they're way different. Like, Tierney suits. He played at Celtic in a back four as a left back, right? Like, a team that had lots of the ball. I just think, like, suddenly he's put into a position they feel like he wants to play, and I'm not surprised that now he start doing well. Like,
play to your player's strengths.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, 100%.
I think we've had this debate many a time on here and off here. I'm not a fan of 3 at the back. I think it's really hard to coach. I mean, and even for high-level professionals. And, like, again, I've said this a few times. Sometimes I think these days everyone's so into tactics and stats that managers sometimes just try and overcomplicate. And I agree with you, Matthew. Just play a fucking back four and put Kieran Tierney at left back. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to be one of your top in there.
Yeah, I understand that. Like, I get what you're saying, but it's way more complex than that. You can't just be like, oh, Kieran Tierney's a left back, so I'm going to put my whole formation.
No, I know.
Like, he's not like, he's not Messi, basically. Like, you're not going to.
Yeah.
Like,
no, you're building the team around Aubameyang or someone else.
But it just seems that Arteta's now going to a back four for whatever reason, because the previous wasn't working, and it's just worked out that Tierney's now come into a bit of form simply because I guarantee if you would speak to him, he'd be like, I like playing in a back four. I wasn't too comfortable in that back three, or back five, or whatever.
Even and you know, in my opinion, this too. I mean, even City going back to a 4-3-3. Is, for my opinion, is what has massively helped them in the last few games, because that's the system that Pep Guardiola grew up playing at Barcelona, grew up immersed in coaching at Barcelona. And I'm not saying he can't ever play a different shape, and it changes as the game's going on, don't get me wrong. But if you see that setup, it's a 4-3-3 and Kevin De Bruyne is a false 9, and that is Pep's bread and butter. That's what he knows what to do. And I just think that he went away from his principles a little bit in terms of how he wanted to play. And that, I think people, whether you're a football player, you're working at an office job and things are done this way and it's working, and you start to go away from your principles, people see that and they feel it, and they're like, what's going on here? Like, we're going away from everything that made us so successful. Adapt and evolve it, but.
Nah, definitely. Man City have definitely got a little something back, and just that 4-3-3 just looks class again.
Yeah, I mean, you buy players to suit a shape. Matthew, me and Scotty have already said our piece on it. You were obviously away. Just in general, before we move on from Arsenal, what do you think that their fans' expectations should be with Arsenal, with Arteta being in charge of them in the next couple of years?
Or the next couple of years?
Yeah. Like, what do you think Arsenal's expectations are? Where do you think they should accept to be?
I don't know. I don't know what Arteta can do.
Is it unrealistic for them to be thinking, with the squad they have and a new manager, is it unrealistic for them to think that they should be definitely finishing in the top 4?
I don't think they're top 4. I think they've come away from that, and they've been away from it for a while, and it's a dangerous game. It's so hard to get back into that.
Yeah.
I think they'll suddenly right, Wolves have suddenly come into the Premier League, right, and now they're just up there and they're just consistent, right? I think they'll kind of be at that level. But
I think
I don't know. I don't really know what Arteta's capable of.
I said I think if they got into the top 6, that is a good achievement for them this season.
Oh, so if that's the question,
yeah,
so they got into the top 6, yeah, definitely.
I think that's a really good achievement. I don't think they should be too disappointed if they finish 7th, 8th, 9th. I think that I said this when you were away. You said about Man United. Arsenal need to accept they're not the same club that they were 15 years ago with Arsene Wenger challenging Man United every single season for titles with players like Thierry Henry playing.
I will say though, I do love Arteta's ruthlessness right now, saying like folk are coming out publicly and saying folk are leaving straight off the bat. Kolasinac goes on loan, that Saliba goes on loan. Like I'm all about that. I'm rating that. Remember we had an episode we spoke about you have to be ruthless at the top and that. Yeah. Arteta's obviously getting rid of the fucking whatever, and he needs hopefully brings folk in.
And this is this is my point: is you have to, as a club and as a fan base, you have to fully back him and agree and get on board with it. Because if you don't, it's not going to work, right? Whether you think it's right or wrong, every fan has a right to moan. You have your right to your own opinion, but deep down, you have to get behind him and back him. You have to back him and see where.
Did Arteta sign Tierney?
No, he was there before.
No, was he? Was he there before?
I'm sure he was there before.
Who was Arsenal man? Oh, Emery.
Emery.
Did Unai Emery sign him?
I'll find out, mate.
I'm sure he did, aye.
To be fair, who's Arteta signed that Partey, Thomas Partey, whatever?
Thomas Partey, he looks decent.
I remember watching him from Madrid, mate, and I was like, fucking good, man. He's a big
absolute engine, eh?
That's what Arsenal needed.
August 2019, Tierney signed. Let's see when Arteta joined. August 2019, and Mikel Arteta joined Arsenal as a coach.
It was after.
I think just after,
Arsenal on December 2019, yeah. So it was an Ironman that sent him. So yeah, but Kieran Tierney is a fantastic player, great pro. Kids should watch him. How he conducts himself is a great. Manchester United, we'll talk about them next. I mean, play tomorrow night against Burnley. If they win, they go top of the Premier League table, 3 points ahead of Liverpool with the Liverpool-Man United game on Sunday. Matthew, what do you think about Ole and Manchester United and where should fans expect them to be?
Well, finally, he's got a bit of a. I always said the issue was they didn't have an identity in how they played. But now I look at them and I'm like, right, United have got an identity. Like, I know when I watch them what it's going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's his biggest thing that he's done now. I think he's got identity and he's found the players and he's sticking with it. He's not changing constantly. You pretty much know that midfield's going to have Fred McTominay in it.
Yeah. You
pretty much know that. Bruno, or whatever, Pogba, maybe sometimes he's playing, sometimes he plays on that left of a diamond or whatever. But he's got an identity now, and to be fair to them, like, fair play, they look decent going forward. The defending all right. And that game against Liverpool is one of the biggest Man U Liverpool games in a while, so I'm looking forward to it. Like,
what do you think the score will be?
I'm gonna go. We'll beat them 2-1.
Liverpool 2-1. I'm always really nervous about these games in general. It's to a similar point of Scotty with Rangers Celtic. You're never confident, right? You know what I mean, going into these games. But it's definitely the most nervous I've been in a long time. Especially if they win tomorrow. I think it finishes 1-1. I think it's a draw. I think Liverpool need to, in my opinion, Matthew and Scotty, I want to see Liverpool say, this is our patch, this is our title, we're going to show you what it takes to beat us. I don't want to see Liverpool. I don't want to see either team going for 0-0, and especially not Liverpool. And I'll say that as a fan. I won't be happy. Don't get me wrong, if it gets to like 80 minutes and it's 0-0 and both teams look a bit cagey and take the point, okay, that's football. But I want to see Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool go for the game.
I think the best thing that can happen to Liverpool is the last few weeks is failed to score. Mane and Salah are really choking on a few goals. And what a better way to stage to get one than
my opinion. My opinion. You're in a bad run of form. You need something to get you out of it. There's no better game, and there's no better game to get you out of that and kick you back on. What overall, Scotty? Matthew just said all those things about Ollie, and I think one thing he's spot on with, and something we haven't actually said yet, which definitely does not play in Lampard's favour, is Ollie has found his formation, he's found his shape, he's found his starting 11, and he's stuck with it. And again, trusting the process and building that cohesion, it's starting to bear fruit for them a little bit right now. They're getting results.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to comment. I can't remember start of the season what I was thinking of Man United, but I definitely wasn't thinking title contenders, nor was I worried about them having a good season.
Yes.
Obviously, halfway through now, they look a genuine team. But yeah, it's hard to get that trust, that process, and build on something if you don't know your starting 11 or your best players. Do you? If you chop and change each week, it's so hard to build consistency.
Do you reckon if they get injuries, do you reckon they'll be all right?
I mean, what do you do if Bruno gets injured? I mean,
yeah, I noticed in the Man City game they did quite well to shut him out for a lot of it, and I didn't create a lot of really dangerous opportunities.
It'd be a huge challenge for Solskjaer if that does happen.
Yeah, no, I think that. Yeah, it's a big question if he can stay fit all season, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
huge question.
He's just so creative, and they've not got anyone else that's like that, I don't think.
So, in terms of, you bring up Bruno. This is something I'd written down for every team, and we'll focus on United, but we can go back and forth between the teams we've already talked about. Have the board backed their manager and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and have they gone and bought the right signings, in your guys' opinion?
They have finally now, yeah. But I don't know if that was that social media thing about he was only ever 2 or 3 games away from getting sacked, but it always seemed like Ole's always in danger of losing his job. But the board did come out and say we're fully behind them, whether that they meant it or not. But
bearing fruit a little bit.
Was Ollie's had? I mean, how he's been there a while. How long's he been there for?
A couple of years now. Yeah, I'll find out when he officially joined. He's
been there a good bit. I don't know if it's his inexperience in him chopping and changing his team so much and the foundation of that.
2018 he joined.
So I don't know if it's inexperience of him chopping and changing his team in that so much, and now he's finally stuck with it. But surely that was it's kind of like his fault. You know what I mean? And his responsibility
for not getting that 11 players together quicker.
For not getting them going and playing as much. But like I said, he's definitely found that now. But I think injuries to me would maybe be a bit of a concern.
Yeah, I mean, agreed, but
it is to every team.
We should see talking about trust that process. Surely it takes a wee while to build a bit of trust between player and manager, especially with Solskjaer, who's not as experienced. Look, see when Ancelotti walked into Everton, I'm sure they trusted him 100% as soon as he walked in the door, just because of how big a name he is. But it's going to take Solskjaer a bit of time to build a bit of rapport and build a bit of trust between them and the players, surely.
It's if, buts and maybes, right? And I'm not saying that Man United are going to go on and win the league title this season. God, I hope not. But
they withstand us.
But listen, but to the point though, what we've all just said, and we've been saying it for a couple of weeks, you can start to see, there's a bit of cohesion going there. There's a style of play. You know what you're going to expect from United. It's given the manager a bit of time to get through bad patches. I mean, like you just said, Scotty, social media for Solskjaer has been worse than Arteta has been for Arteta. I mean,
especially as what I was saying about the pundits as well. You watch any game, and if they have a terrible game, you've got Paul Scholes, Roy Keane, absolutely tearing the team apart, which doesn't help either.
And there's loads of pressure on you, especially at Man United, to have been the most dominant British team, and they were the most dominant British team for 25 years. But again,
they were, but at the moment they're not.
Accepting where you're at. Where are you? You've tried all these top managers. You've bought players like Alexis Sanchez and Zlatan Ibrahimovic and tried to go for short-term fixes, and it's not worked. You have to regroup and try and build something anew. Could go either way. But I just think you're, like you said, Matthew, you're starting to see what he is wanting to create with that team, right? You're starting to see it, And, you know, again, we said it, you can't really see it with Lampard. You can see Arteta's trying to play a certain style. So, I don't know. I think they're bearing fruits of trust in the process and not pulling the trigger.
Then begs the question of can they if they do go top and they are top for a good bit, can they bear the pressure of that? Because that is another huge thing. Because if you want to be champions, you just got to deal with that constant, so much pressure on you.
Yes, I know, and I think Liverpool have felt that a bit this season. You know what I mean? The Liverpool squad have never been through it. It's so hard to retain a league title.
Yeah, it's part of it.
It's harder. It's harder to win it again than it is to win it the first time. You know what I mean? It's a lot harder to do that. So there's pressure on Liverpool from that point of view. They'll play into United's hands. But I do agree with you. You know, Man United haven't quite been there. Liverpool had the Champions League final run, the Champions League win. They then missed out on the season by a point. Talking about trust in the process, you could see it was coming, right? And United are kind of maybe starting to get to the beginning of that volley where it's like, all right, like let's just see where this goes. If you don't win it this season, it's not a big deal. Can you recruit well? Can you build off of it? And see where the next step is, you know, in the next season for him. But I mean, yeah, unfortunately, I hate to say it, they look like they've got a little bit going. They've got a bit of cohesion. I agree. A few injuries might be problematic for them, but people said that about Liverpool for 2 years and we didn't get anyone injured, and then obviously it happened this season. So it is what it is. What about Spurs for you guys? I mean, what do you think, in your opinion, Jose Mourinho coming in, what has he been brought in to do at Tottenham?
Trophies in the cabinet.
Good army.
Yeah,
Do you Scott?
Jose's been brought in to get trophies.
Yeah.
I think, isn't he?
Do you think that from where Spurs have been,
Build a legacy.
so
Build
Spurs,
a dynasty.
This is why I understood the appointment when they did it. In the last 5 years, I was quite surprised by this. In the last 5 years, 5 years ago they finished third, then they finished second, then they finished third, then they finished fourth, and unfortunately last season they finished sixth, right? But Mourinho's been appointed midway through the season, you're changing style and everything. But I mean, third, second, third, and fourth, that's a solid 4 years. So Spurs have been there or thereabouts, and they just need something to just get over the line. And the appointment of Mourinho is not a bad one if that's what you're looking to try and do.
They had a Champions League run in there as well, didn't they?
Yeah, Champions League final.
But you see, if you finish second, third every year, but you win an FA Cup or something like that, that's a decent season, no?
Yeah.
Do you think Spurs want to win the Premier League? That's their the number one goal.
I think, I mean, speaking to my mate Rob about it, Matthew, they just want to. Rob's like he's been brought in to win a trophy. I'd quite like a trophy. Is Rob thinking he's wanting him there for a long time? I don't get the feeling off of that. I mean, that's one Spurs fan I know, but he's a big Spurs fan. And do you think Matthew Mourinho is? Do you see him being there for a long time? I guess that in modern day football is probably about 3 to 4 or 5 years. Do you see him being there that long, or what do you think?
I actually do.
He likes London, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
If he keeps doing well, if he's doing well, they're not gonna get rid of him.
Mm.
Like Daniel Levy's not gonna be like, and this goes back to the whole like attractive football or results type thing, but to a different scale because we're talking about not relegation but winning trophies. Mate, like if he's gonna do that, they're gonna keep him there 100%. But to be fair to him, Mourinho, Tottenham have been class going forward this year.
Yeah.
They've been really good to watch. Like I think this whole like Mourinho-born football thing, it's not like a myth, but some of his teams have played good, like they've played decent football.
When you've got Kane and Son, there's only so bad it can be, right?
Well, it's funny you say that. I watched the first half of Premier League years, the first season he managed Chelsea, and I was watching it today, and I mean, they're frightening, very much the similar, hitting teams on the break with Drogba, Robin, Duff, Lampard, you know what I mean? Like
Ida Good Johnson.
Yeah, he had the odd game over the Christmas period where you're looking at them like, holy shit, but I don't know, Mourinho's clever. The Christmas period, he's like, let's just get fucking points on the board here. We'll do whatever we can.
Christmas period,
it's hardly like a schedule and organisation thing.
But Matthew, what you just said there, they had a bit of a patchy bit of form and everything. But
everyone has.
Every team goes through that, and this is my point. Like,
even more this season.
You have to accept that, and I think we've all been drawn into this of the last 2 years of how of how amazing Liverpool and Man City have done, and it's just not. That's not what it normally is. I don't know if that'll ever get done again. Personally, I thought that was, or not for a long time from any team. And I think everyone's just kind of forgotten what a normal title race is like. You know what I mean? I think everyone's just expecting to run it. And you hear it on Sky a lot all the time. Like, is anyone going to run away with it? Like, I can remember growing up, there was always a couple of teams. There was always United and Arsenal. No one really ran away with it. It went deep into the season, like last 5-6 games. Man United and Chelsea, whoever it was up there. You know, it's only in the last couple of years that two teams have ran away with it. So,
I 100% agree. There's like every team this year has like hit a patchy bit, and some teams come out of it stronger. Liverpool seem to be in it now. Man City have coming out of it. United have came out of it 100%. Arsenal have now came out of the patchy bit. Chelsea have gone into Liverpool. Chelsea sitting in that kind of like weird kind of it definitely happens in the season. It's kind of how you come out of it, to be honest, and when, I think, can define the season.
And bring your expectations back down to reality, Scotty, right? Like I just said, that we've been kind of lured into the falseness of the last 2 years.
We've been blinded by success the last 2 or 3 years, especially in Scotland as well. You're used to Celtic running away with it. Liverpool, you just think, all of a sudden you think that's the normal. When it goes back to an up and down season, like nobody's experienced that for years. Like,
no.
You expect one team to be so much better, and there's no ups and downs. There's no heartbreak every second week. Like,
no, mate, I agree.
Especially this season, especially with COVID and injuries and depleted squads.
Great point about fair point about Celtic too in Scotland. It's kind of almost been a done thing. It's going to be Celtic and obviously Rangers being back. Rangers being back there, Celtic fans obviously aren't going to agree, but Rangers being back there and challenging is a good thing for the league because. And even as a Liverpool fan, it was fantastic watching us run away with it last season. We finally got over the line. But as a football fan, like I'm quite enjoying like it being tight and having to beat Man United this weekend. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm quite buzzing for it.
You've got the excitement back. The banter's so much better between everyone. You're worried, and then you're buzzing, and there's so much more excitement and emotion in it, which is way better, surely. You get bored of watching a team
United away, fucking right.
Yeah, love it. What do you think about Spurs then in the next, couple of years? What should their fans be expecting? Is it purely just to win a trophy, just any trophy? Is that what would be good for Spurs?
Surely it's got to start with that.
Yeah, then you go from there. You've
got to build on that, surely.
Yeah, build success, get that winning mentality.
Matthew, I was saying earlier, and Scotty said a similar thing about Rangers in the Scottish Cup final last year against Celtic. When Liverpool got beat by Real Madrid in the final of the Champions League, do you not think as a fan that, or maybe you felt differently, I don't know, but I certainly felt as a fan that it didn't feel like that was the end. It felt like that was the beginning of like going on something. You know what I mean? It felt like we're going to be back there, we're going to be here. And Spurs have got themselves to a final, and if they can get over the line and get the League Cup trophy, I know it's probably the, I don't know, maybe not the worst is the right word, but you know what I mean, of the three, the least important,
the least attractive.
But for Spurs who haven't won a trophy in God knows how long, they just need to get that off their backs and then move forward while finishing in the top four if possible. That's what they need to do.
You've got to end the dry spell at some point.
Yeah. They're gonna.
We all hit that. We all hit that dry spell.
Nobody else wants her. You got to end the dry spell.
We all hit that dry spell, and I'll tell you something. I'm fucking in it now.
Especially in lockdown.
You'd take the League Cup right now, wouldn't you?
Everyone's on a dry spell. Last team I put down here, lads, to a bit of a different conversation, but it's an incredible season. But where they're at, and I like them. I like the manager. I like the team. Is Aston Villa. I mean, they're up there in the mix with all the big names. An incredible season. I was thinking about this when I put this down, and I was looking at the team and how they've bought over the last couple of years and how they play and how they've adapted. Do you think, Matthew, it's a fluke where they're at, or do you genuinely think they're being rewarded for a good bit of coaching, a good bit of recruitment, and a good bit of togetherness in that team?
Oh, good bit of all that, 100%. They've recruited really well. Fair play to them. I know I've mentioned before, but with Villa going from changing their formation is massive. They got one of the best defensive records in the league at the moment, do that.
Yeah.
I just think a bit of everything, sticking with the manager as well. I know they just avoided relegation, but they stuck with him, and they've done everything. Togetherness, they've good signings, basing a lot of the team around Jack Grealish, which rightly so. They brought in a striker, which they needed. They've also got a right back, a right winger. They've done excellent.
Yeah. What do you think, Scotty? That being rewarded for just a good kind of last 12 months?
This is on Sky Sports of the week. But apparently, they were all over them and during lockdown, like hammering defensive. They're all like educating them, and this is how we're going to defend going forward. Apparently, they did an amazing job with them, and then they reap rewards now, haven't they?
Yeah, I like them. I like the way the manager speaks. I like the team. I think they've got a bunch of really good players.
Trust the process. Did he not? Was it the 16th in the championship when he took over? They're way down, weren't they?
Yes.
Smith, and now all of a sudden he's gotten to what?
Massive club, man.
Yeah, huge club, huge expectations as well. Surely for a club like that.
Yeah, Villa's a huge club, man. Trust the process, and in that you need to. Of course, you need to see results, but just like you just said there with Villa, just. You can see the improvement. You can feel it coming. I hope that Villa fans are just enjoying the ride this season because, it's no one expected. It's incredible. Do you guys think that, kind of the Sheffield United thing, if they finish too high this season, is that going to affect them maybe negatively? Or do you think
way better than Sheffield? Truly.
Yeah, I think so. What do you think, Matthew?
Way better.
Sorry, what'd you say?
Get off your phone on Tinder, mate. I think that. Do you think that with same as Sheffield United last season, if they finish too high, is that going to mess with the expectations of next season and trouble them a bit, or what do you think?
It's the expectations, but it's also going to do it again. Like shit's so difficult, man.
Yeah.
For Villa to go and try and.
But if they can keep Jack Grealish,
they need to just keep.
Possible,
yeah, they need to just keep building on it, but it's so hard to do, man. It's so hard to do.
I think.
Things go your way. They've had things go their way as well.
I think, personally, looking from the outside in, like I said, Villa fans should enjoy it because it's incredible what they're doing right now. And I think that just be wherever they end up this season, just be careful in the summer. And again, like we've been saying, take a step back, look at your squad. What's the realistic expectations of where we should finish? Of course, you've done very well. Maybe potentially finishing in the top 6, which would be incredible. But just always take that step back and really realistically look at your team and think, right, where should we finish and go from there? And if it's better than that, great. You know what I mean? But I agree, if they can keep Jack Grealish, which they could do with the pandemics, I don't think teams are going to be able to afford to spend money. And you know what I mean? You're going to demand, if you're Aston Villa, you're demanding, he's English, you're demanding close to 100 mil for him. And I don't think clubs have the money to spend on that.
I love how they're playing with 2 holding midfielders, and he's got a free role. He can mate. Let's literally it's exactly what Jack Grealish wants. Just a free he's got 2 sitting midfielders and McGinn and Louis behind him. I reckon he gets told, fucking pop out on the left wing, pop out on the right, play behind Watkins, fucking drop and come get the ball from your centre back. Fucking do what you gotta do, mate. I don't blame them because I'm a huge fan.
Another Scottish man in there that even when I've seen him have poor games on the ball, off the ball, 110%. You know what you're getting with John McGinn every week. He's not letting you down.
Super John.
He's not letting you down.
I reckon a lot of clubs would take him, by the way.
Yeah, he's a Milner type.
What a decision not going to Celtic, and going going and working his way up from the Championship, by the way. That's worked on absolute peach because he's got a start in Scotland's midfield, obviously.
Yeah, he has to. He's a quality player. By the way, Scotty, Celtic are winning 1-0.
He has an absolute stunning free kick from
David Turnbull, who you rate, Matthew?
I think he's good.
Stunning set piece.
Celtic just had to kind of win tonight just to get at least. Everyone's still going to go on about all the other stuff for the next few days, right? They've got a bit of shit, but in terms of the football side of things, they need to win tonight.
So stunning free kick, really. Wow.
So I mean, ultimately, I think that this was just something I thought was important to talk about at the time when everything was going on with the media talking about Lampard and fans and then Arteta, and and all these teams. It's an interesting point of view that I think that fans have come to expect, maybe instant success and just so early too. Do you know what I mean? And not after a long period of time. So I just thought it was a good topic to kind of bring up and chat about. And it kind of got me thinking about this too, right? I mean, right now, I check it. We have like 20 to 30 people that listen to this. They've listened to each episode every week, which I could thank you for everyone that does. By the way, I could look that in a negative way and go, I want 1,000 views per video, but you've got to start somewhere and start small and build off of it, right? You know what I mean? You can't be expecting instant success to go for anything. So it got me thinking about that for myself too. So
I can't wait to be famous.
I can't wait.
Be class, like.
Any other teams you guys want to bring up on that or anything else on that topic? I mean, I think
Sheffield United, trust the process. Wait, what happens when it goes tits up?
That's a great point, man. I mean,
I have no idea, but
I don't know what you do there because, again, had such a good season last season.
Yeah.
Great manager. And then all of a sudden it's gone tits up. I don't know. It's an awkward situation.
And when do you sack him after such an unbelievable year last year? What point do you say, shit, it's not working anymore?
I know, man. I don't know.
So I bet his coaching style's not changed. What training's not any different, but all of a sudden it's just
no. I think the thing with Sheffield United was it was incredible, but I felt like everyone was saying like everyone was in so much shock because of the squad of what they were doing, and like we just said with Villa have a better squad, right? They've got some really good players.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Matthew, you said it. Certainly, I remember you saying it. You called it. You said, I reckon Sheffield United are battling relegation this season before the season started because of their squad.
I said that. You said that.
You did, I'm pretty sure. Maybe not in here, but you said it to me, certainly, privately.
Yeah, I also said the expectations, like, people have, like, it's not that it was luck here that with what they've done, being fully deserved in that, but just to go and do that again takes a lot, man.
Yeah. Set your expectations as a fan, be realistic with it, and trust the process, basically, boys, eh? Class.
Don't expect instant results. It takes a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, a lot of time.
Class. Absolute class. Well, I think that's it. I think we've covered everything I wanted to cover. I think that's good.
Right. It's past my bedtime here.
Perfect. And we'll get Greggy, unfortunately,
Bring back the beans.
Preparing for a wee job interview on Wednesday, so he's been busy.
The fans will be fucking rioting outside our gaff.
Fans will be going
outside Gullen Key store. Bring back the beans. The
nation's favourite, mate. To get the beans.
Yeah.
Man.
We'll get the beans back on next week, boys. But
sweet.
Cheers again for coming on. We'll get back at it after Liverpool have beaten Man United on Sunday.
All right, sweet. Sounds good.
All right, see you, boys.
Cheers, boys.
All right, bye.